Hi guys, my name is Seth Shah, and today I'm going to be giving you guys a presentation over my recommendation report that I did with gas-powered cars versus electric cars. Now you might be thinking, why did I choose this topic compared to all the other topics that I had? Main reason being, I'm studying mechanical engineering, and so one of the job of an engineer is to give people a better quality of life. The mechanical sector is made up of many things, but automobile makes a large portion of it. And so the introduction of the automobile provided people with a good quality of life simply because it helped people get from place to place in a very short amount of time. The problem, however, is cars release carbon emissions. Carbon emissions, if you guys don't know it already, is one of the leading causes of global warming. And so cars release approximately 28% of these harmful gases into the atmosphere. My job here today is to show you guys some of the impacts that cars have done on the environment, as well as what we could do to kind of fix some of them, or at least reduce it. Before we get to that, let's take a step back and see where cars originated from. During the 18th century was the time of Industrial Revolution. This is when many of the technological advancements took place. After that time period, every year, technologies just progressed more and more, until the 20th century, where a man by the name of Henry Ford came into the picture with a great concept. This concept would later be known as the automobile. The introduction of the automobile not only helped people get from one area to another in a very short amount of time, it also allowed people to carry load that they would otherwise not be able to carry had they not have been traveling using an automobile. During that time period, not many types of automobiles existed, only the gas-powered existed. But nowadays, you can find the more traditional automobile as well as the newer models, which are the electric automobiles. The fundamental difference, you might ask, is one uses fossil fuels while the other one uses electricity provided by a battery. Every year, the prices and the number of cars increases. This is simply because as the years go on, people's dependency on technology increases. And this is further evidented as more and more people need transportation to get from place to place. This is shown like, let's take an everyday person. They're either going to school, they're going to work, or they're going on a vacation, all of which are done through transportation. And so, just like people, vehicles require a source of energy. Like how people use food for energy, vehicles use fossil fuels as energies. Fossil fuels in the United States make up 30% of the transportation sector. Now you might be wondering, well, what about renewable resources? Wouldn't that play a big factor? Well, in the United States, 71% of the electricity that is generated is still generated through harnessing coal. And so with all that in mind, when people want to buy a car, they take two things into account. One, the environmental impacts, and two, the cost to operate the vehicle. Can I afford it, in a sense? So let's take a look at the first criteria, which is the environmental impacts. In the United States, 24 pounds of carbon dioxide is released onto the atmosphere per gallon of gas. Now you might be wondering, and questions have been asked, if cars release that much carbon dioxide and carbon emissions in general, why not just reduce the number of cars? Because reducing the number of cars would mean you're inevitably reducing the number of carbon emissions that are done. The problem is cars make our lives so much easier that, let's say if you don't have a car, something that would take 10 minutes would otherwise take a substantially large amount of time. Well then, another option would be, why not just replace cars altogether with a different form of transportation? Let's say a bicycle, for example. The problem is, cars were brought into the United States simply because they wanted to fix the problem of efficiency. You couldn't get from place to place in a short amount of time. Therefore, if you get rid of cars completely, you're basically undoing what was already done to fix a problem. If you take a look at the graph, you will see, from the start, there is not much carbon emission that's done. However, as the years went on, coal started getting introduced, which is, the primary means of harnessing energy during that time, to now what it is that we use for oil and gas. So that has since then been substituted. And so now let's take a look at the cost to operate these vehicles. Okay, many people believe that they can't really afford a vehicle, much less afford an electric car. What they don't understand is that operating an electric car has its benefits nowadays. You can get discounts depending on the state when you're buying a car, to even getting price reductions on your taxes. And a great example of this would be like in 2013, you could find a Nissan Leaf for $35,000. Nowadays, it is like substantially lower compared to what it was before. Okay, now you might be thinking, well, we got the car part of the way. How much does it cost for me to actually drive the car? If you take a look at the graph, you can see that the gas prices are very volatile. It does not ever stay constant. It fluctuates up and down. If you take a look at the electricity, you will see that majority of it is very static. From the math done, you can see that driving 100 miles with electricity would cost you $3.45, compared to driving the same amount of miles with gasoline, which would cost you 3 times as much. Okay, so now you might be wondering, that's great, but how many miles can we drive? Let's take a look at the statistics. In a sense, the electric car can get somewhere between 304 to 375 miles per charge, compared to a combustion engine car, which will get close to 300. The fundamental difference, again, fuel, right? One runs on electricity, the other one runs on gasoline, as well as the amount of emission that is emitted. You can take a look and it shows you that the electric car releases 50% less carbon emission compared to a gas-powered car, which releases over 50 metric tons throughout its life cycle. With all that into consideration, we can come to a conclusion that not only is an electric car more fuel efficient by having a cheaper cost in charge, it's also able to get more distances. And so, drawing a conclusion that the electric car outperforms the gas-powered car, you can say that I recommend driving a electric car is much better than a gas-powered car, as you get the best bang for your buck. This is the Works Cited. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a good day.